the two papers are very, very different because the driving force of the two economies are very different. Here we have a situation in China where wages, real wages, farm wages are increasing very rapidly because of slow population growth, reduction of the farm workers because they all sucked up into the manufacturing and service sector. Right, so they are in shortage of labor. But in the case of India, you have a 2.5% population growth, and there are very heavy growth in the rural areas, some migration, but still the population growth is determining.
The wages are rising, right?
The wages are rising,
absolutely.
right.
So wage rise is the same in India and China. Right?
Absolutely.
And that's something that I think we have to be very clear about.
Yeah.
So I could actually take all of the data presented and
tell a
spin a
different
very
story.
positive story. You know, it depends on how you spin the story. The wage rate story in India is exactly the same as China, and I think we have to be very, very clear on it.
Machinery survey also.
And the machinery
And-
service
yes.
is
Also the
exactly
same
the
thing.
same. So we have to be careful not to spin a sad story on India and a very positive story on China.
I thought I presented the facts, so it's more like I took a neutral stand.
Slides,
Uh-huh.
the concluding slides were very negative. I would have turned them around and made it a very different concluding set of slides. That's why they sorry. I didn't
Okay.
okay, sure.
I think you have to co-author
No.
a new paper.
Yes, and I
No,
think it's a bright
to be fair
idea.
to her, she's proposing,
I was
she's proposing
responding to
policies. So that means she's unhappy
Surah.
with some of the
Yeah.
characteristics
No,
of
no, I wasn't
India.
responding to. I was responding to Surat saying the
Sutat.
wage rate. Sutat
Sutat.
saying the wage rates were off. So
Okay.
that was-
No, I was just saying there are surplus labor. Therefore, the government respond in one manner, and there's a shortage of labor, so the government respond in another manner.
No, the question is not surplus or deficit, but I think because of this timber diagram, we are looking exclusively at agriculture and agriculture growth. And we have to be very careful because there is a lot of things going on. His paper, when he looks at interstate comparison, begin to ask, only begin. He doesn't document it fully about the vibrancy of the non-agricultural sectors, and there are different kind of sectors. He mentioned mineral sector, mentioned service sector.
Construction.
The service sector is straightforward.
very small compared to the others.
So what is?
So the construction is actually listed under industry,
True.
whereas service sector is growing much more.
Absolutely. But then being labor intensive, it's just sucking out a lot of unskilled manual labor. So basically that's the idea.
But also when you look at construction sector and the agricultural sector as a whole, it's unfortunately that India, which has such an excellent statistical service in many areas, including agriculture, is rather careless about the seasonality of a lot of activities and a lot of employment.
I agree.
And that's very important.
I agree.
When you have monsoon agriculture, where the rain doesn't come for half a year, and therefore people have nothing to do, quote unquote,
True.
people begin to do something, and they move. I mean, how they survive
Yeah.
that long drought of work is they don't. I mean, they survive.
Yeah.
That means they have done something. They are doing something,
I agree.
and that doesn't get captured
I agree.
in our pictures.
I agree, sir.
And most of the statistics, I presume, are collected during the planting or
True.
when there
and
are
they
crops
do-
on the ground.
They do it twice that year, so Kharif and Rabi, and
Yeah.
they go at that time.
So they
yes,
have at least
do
two,
it.
twice.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, all these.
But then they won't still capture the seasonality part of.
But when we are looking at farm size,
Right, sir.
sorry that I'm making a comment.
No, sir.
We are looking at farm size. farm sizes are very funny things. First of all, we look at holdings. We don't look at the number of people in holdings.
True.
And family sizes have shrunk,
Yeah.
even for family farms. Okay, so the number of people is different, and people adjust to that. I mean, some families, even in India, have 4 or 5 children. Some families have 1 or 2, and after a
4.5
while,
is the size.
the farm size and the number of people in the family are no longer congruent as they are from history. All right? At some time, people adjust their farm size, even with a long lag, to the number of people they divide up among children and so on.
True.
So at some point, they become not congruent anymore. That's why the traditional system have things like tenancy, where temporary adjustments are made, etc., etc., etc. So farm sizes have to be looked at season by season as well.
Sure.
And when you have mechanization, the farm sizes expand and shrink according to the convenience of the machinery owners, right? When a lot of small farms want to harvest all at the same time,
True. And a lot of land goes fallow between seasons just because they get other non-farm employment in
Yeah.
between, and that's sporadic, and that
right.
also happens.
But sometimes if you have a lot of farm, they expand and shrink because I don't know about in India, but in Thailand, the farm machinery owners decide that I want to do 10 farms along this route, and they combine them, and then they just write roughshod across borders.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that.
And that happens in India too, but
Can-
then
can
there
I-
is
can I,
social
I think we
So
may
I-
have to open this up for a broader
Okay.
discussion, and then we'll come
It's
back to
becoming
this.
a private conversation.
Yeah, so we try to avoid. And now I understand why he want to make me his student, chairman of this session. So let's take the question from the floor and then maybe go by batches. We I think running out of time according to schedule, but I think this is huge paper, so we have to have some time discussing this. Prabhu and then Suresh.
So first of all, I think that was a great paper. I would differ on interpretation,
Sure.
but the data I think was very good. Just to be clear, when we think about the India-China comparison, and you look at the drop in operational holdings, the land holding sizes in India, it came from the movement away from the large landowners and the loss of the big traditional landowners to giving land to people who did not have land.
True.
So as a farmer, as a family that owned land and who lost land, I know that a lot of our land went to landless labor. So there was a net positive welfare gain that came from it. And so one should not just say that this drop in land holding size was a bad thing, and that it was only related to population growth, which it was not. It was also related to the redistribution that took place
True.
from large landowners to small landowners. And I think that's a really important part of Indian agricultural history that needs to be emphasized more in a positive sense than in a negative sense, which we tend to use this as. Second, I think it's important for us to realize that if real wages in agriculture are rising, then we cannot at the same time say the number of people depending on agriculture is also putting pressure on land, etc. Because there is a net rise in overall demand for labor that's moving real wages up, which means that there is an extraction of people out of the agriculture sector that's happening. And it's happening in the same way in China as it is in India. And so the interesting thing that's coming out of the analysis of both papers is both are showing this rise in wages. And then both are showing the rise in mechanization that's happening, which also means that the overall remuneration from agriculture is also increasing. Otherwise, people would not be investing in all of this. So there's a lot of real positive stuff coming out. And I think we need to also be celebrating two very different economies growing in a similar way rather than saying, oh my God, this country is so depressed and the other countries grow.
I think you're the only person who heard that, probably.
But I sort of interpreted that.
But
Have
well
different
taken.
ears.
No,
I think it makes sense.
the Indians are the world's pessimists.
But by highlighting this, we're just proposing that only if we could do this better, we'll be a little better. So I think that's our wish. But taken, sir.
Yeah,
Suresh,
just a
please, yeah.
brief observation. Another common thing which we see both in China and India, that is basically in some part of the country, both the countries, there is increase in average size of holding. I mean, there in China, it is northeast and north in China, that size of holding is increasing, and that is basically facilitated by the land transfer centers, basically.
Yeah.
Similar phenomena we have in India, that is northwest in India. So there, Punjab and Haryana.
Nice. So
states,
Punjab and Nagaland. Two
Haryana
where.
also will
Acha,
again
okay.
compare
Okay.
with time,
Okay.
and maybe some other states. There also the average size of holding is increasing, and there it is basically facilitated by the market land transaction. So that is another positive development that we are moving in that direction. Now, sir, coming to your point about the seasonality, that is, I think, very important point, but that is not captured through the census kind of thing, but that phenomena, seasonality, is captured through the these wage rates, basically. We have the monthly wage rates or daily wage rates, so there we can see that during the lean season there are decreasing wages, but overall trend is rising in the agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Kevin, then Sam, and then two gentlemen over there.
Those are two very interesting papers, and both papers talk rise in wage and mechanization. And another side of fact I'd like to ask both Jikun and Shweta is on the land rental side. And what about the land rental rate? In China, we certainly heard the cost become so high in some regions, become prohibitive often, and it may become limiting factors for the land transfer. I haven't heard very much on the India side. I'd like to hear a bit more on that if possible. So what story in two countries can draw?
I'll collect four.
Yes, thank you. Two really nice papers. I thought they both are very similar. Only difference I see is India, I think, is because of the pendency restriction, other things, your published data doesn't show what's happening on the ground. I'm just giving an example in Odisha. If you go to the Odisha, I go there for 50 days a year, I'm there. There are plenty of land available for rental. People don't expand because it's too risky. It's a drought, flood, other things that they don't want to expand because it's too risky. It doesn't show up in the statistics what the effective size of operation there. You publish what's the family, average per cap, average land holding. If a family has 3 brothers and they got divided, one of them just planting, other 2 are out. On record, it's a 3 holdings there, but in reality, one person is just doing the farming operation there. So if you factor that in, I think the similarity between India and China will be a lot more than what the published data shows.
Oh, thank you very much. It's both a very interesting topic. I have 2 questions for Jikun. The first one is, I saw the farmers' land scale increased very fast in past 5 years. For 5 years, but I'm wondering, for this scale up, how much was driven by market and how much was pushed up by government policy? And my second question is, should the government stay away from this land consolidation instead of any market disordering? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Both the papers were very, very informative. I compliment both the speakers.
I would like to add 2 points on India. One is that on lease markets, there are informal lease markets operating which are not being captured in the statistical data. So we have to be very careful on this. The second is in India to consolidate land holdings. The government of India has started one big program. It's a flagship program now, which is farmer producers organizations. It is controlled by small farmer agri-business consortia, so that the farmers can come together, they produce together, and then they market together. So this is a new initiative, which I think if we replicate it, then the lease marketing and farmers can consolidate. The second is on China paper. It's a very interesting paper. I think we need to learn lots of things from China. So Jikun, can you elaborate more on this land transfer service center? This is one. And second is San Quen Fenji, what you mentioned. The two programs which are successful in consolidating smallholders and making them larger farmers. So we can learn lessons from Chinese experiences. Thank you.
I'll let Jikun first. I think we are running out of time. So Jikun first, and then Shweta. Yeah.
Okay. Now it's working now. First, let quick comment on Prabhu Bingani comment. I think that I fully agree with Prabhu saying Indian this stage is moving to more equity stage, more welfare improving, government reform help land needs get get into the farming. I think China is different in terms of China in early 1980s already achieved equity land distribution. Every household have land already. So with those institutions as a base, now we are moving to more consolidation on land, so able to achieve both equity and efficiency. But I think in the future, if India continue to push in these equity issues, welfare issues, as I mentioned, we can achieve that goal maybe in the future. Also, my suggestion may also can also push in this land transformation more faster. And other, I think Saras and knows. I think I fully agree on those. Kevin mentioned about Indian kids, but let me also say China rental price increasing from in past 5 years, increasing very, very fast. Each year increase about 10% in real term. For a couple of reasons. First, beyond rental market development, and more people can engage in demanding increasing in this one. But also important in last 5 years, government pricing supporting policy, supporting rice, wheat, maize, cotton. Because pricing supporting land price also increasing. And so in this year, I just finished survey 2 months ago. I found different from 2 years ago. Each year increased by 10%, and since last year declined by 20% for 1 year rental price. So rental price is very also dependent on government pricing policies. And I think some I think agree. And Junfei asked question on driver due to market and policy. In my paper showed there are 4 major driving forces. Wages number 1. Second, without wage increasing, nothing will happen. Of course, and the second one, major one, is non-transport service. I think the government have to engage in this because this market failure and market won't do this because reduce transaction costs. The government provide information for renting in, renting out. So that is marketing failure. Government have to engage, and because China government engage, it become public good for service for rental market, and that's why they went so fast. Second, third driver is machinery service. Government provides subsidy for those people want buy big machine. 1/3 subsidy, nearly 30% of subsidy. So if you are 2-3 farmers want to become one group, become we call a Jikun cultivate team. So you have buy a set of machine, you need provide machine to other farmer. So when you buy machine, you get 30% of discount from government. And so again, this you can consider as a public good or private good, but it's good for at least farmer demand for net for this service. And the fourth driving force is government policies, subsidy policy. Government policies have two components. One subsidy, I mentioned, this is bad, because but the subsidy is better because government decide more than 10 hectares get subsidy, but it's policy wrong. If it's said if you want to move into 1 hectare to 10 hectares, you get subsidy, and that's a good subsidy, help farmer to move into more productivity farm side. If more than 10 hectares, productivity declining, you subsidy, that's bad. Second policy is loan, but when you increase in farm size, then you need a credit. But then you credit, and government in some sense help them to get a credit for input fertilizer. When you have 1 hectare, you don't need a credit. You go into 10 hectares, and you really need a credit for farming. So credit is also important. In some, there are many things. I would say government in increasing farm size, not concentration, 80% doing good things, 20% is bad. That's through the subsidy. And the other question, I think Joe's asked question I mentioned here a little bit earlier, but then a little about non-transport center. For me, we only now know little information about this transport center. We know what they are doing in collecting information, and then announce this information in the internet, and they provide contract service, arrange a contract, and arrange a credit support program, linked credit support program. If you non-transfer from this center, you get more other benefit, even attention service, government, because of the attention service people also working in this office. So there are some kind of benefit, but they are different from location to location. And I'm glad David Dow here from FAO, he gave me a little money. We're going back to 150 villages to reduce survey, just to understanding how they operate, who are operating, who are survey are provided to, who receive the provide. So I will give. We hopefully have a very nice paper in coming months after this survey. And the other point we discussed about machinery survey also in India. I think this is quite creative in terms of even the theory. In the theory is saying agriculture cannot separate, activity cannot separate. And because before they only look at the non-scale. So scale economy agriculture two parts. One is in terms of non-scale farm side. The other scale economy in terms of activities. So for the the group of farmers only working in harvesting, they serving before own farm, they serving the 100,000 farmers. So the increasing scale of economy by activities. And some farmers specialize in protein land preparation, they doing those activities. So scale of economy moving from farm side to activity by activity. And that's across the household, not within household. That's, I think, very, very important.
Shweta, please.
On the question from Dr. Joshi, we agree there is a I mean, it's just an important thing. I think it needs. I mean, through that point, I'll get an opportunity to share. In India at the moment, 10 to 20% of our operational holdings are under informal tenancy contracts, and in states like Andhra, it's about 60%. So that's an important thing, and that's how the urgency to really address the issue. And I agree in, as you've said, in case of Odisha, and it's true for a lot of other states also, paucity of data and the parameters they look at and the duration, the lapse in time between which they collect is all an issue, and I totally acknowledge it. On land rentals, as Dr. Chen had said, India has been into leasing of land, and that, as I've already highlighted, is a big problem because there is no formal contract which goes about in the market, and therefore it's created a lot of problems, and that was the center of my presentation. So I agree, and thank you.